Hello. Oh my god. But anyways, today I am going to be reading like always, because that's the only thing I can do, even though I can barely do it. It's super fun and cool. Oh my god, I'm such a good reader and I'm so smart, by the way. I'm not a tweaker. You're a tweaker. You're a tweaker. Today I am reading Why I Stay Away from Haunted Houses. Dude, that must be flippin' scary. Ooh. Okay, guys, let's go. My chair won't move. Also, I got scissors. In case there's an intruder, I got nail scissors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why I stay away from haunted houses. Oh, this is. My lamp is broken. If I do this, if I shake my desk, it'll do that. It'll cut out. So spooky. My house isn't haunted. It's just because it's flippin' broken. Okay, okay! Why I stay away from haunted houses. Duh. Why would you go in there? I still remember how the screen door slammed that October evening. My foster father's voice, however, was even louder as she shouted after me. Just where the hell do you think you boys are going? I gestured over my shoulder at my friends. Why am I southern? Oh my god. Oh my god. Stop it. I gestured over my shoulder at my friend idling at the end of the gravel driveway. I was going to a haunted house with some friends from school, I explained over the rumble of the motor. Over my dead body, Frank yelled. Get back up here. Frank's an a-hole. The hell? I couldn't understand what I'd done to make Frank Little so angry. His name is Frank Little? It's almost like your name, Sam Small. He's not listening. Okay. He and my foster mom, Pam, were a little rough around the edges, but they weren't the exploiters or religious nut jobs that I feared when I was first put to the foster care. They'd been nothing but kind to me so far, although the look on my foster father's face suggested that it was all about to change. I wasn't scared of Frank Little, but I was afraid of what might happen if my new family rejected me. Giving Giving up a haunted house seemed like a small price to pay to avoid some other kind of foster home. I shook my head at Brett. He rolled his eyes and drove off in a cloud of exhaust fumes, taking my hopes at fitting in my new school away with him. From now on, I'd be known as the loser who didn't celebrate Halloween. You're right. You are a loser. Okay. This is getting good. This is getting good. I'm going to keep reading. Okay. I dragged my feet to the... I'm done, y'all. I dragged my feet on the way back to the porch, but all of my irritation disappeared when I saw my foster father close up. He'd fallen, rather than sat, on a rocking chair beside the door. He was watching me with the shell-shocked, pale expression of a man who just narrowly avoided a gruesome accident. You ever been in one of those things before? He asked. A haunted house, I mean? I shook my head. That was part of the reason why I was so eager to go. They got all kinds now. Ones with mechanical monsters, ones where people in masks can jump and grab you. At some of them, you gotta sign a waiver saying they're not responsible for whatever they do to you. But really, you really sure you want to go to a place like that? I had thought about it, but I doubted that the local spooky attractions in the small town where the Littles lived was known for over-the-top horror. In fact, the bright orange flyer I'd found had said that the place was kid-friendly, Frank elaborated on. Of course, most places just put those warnings on for a show. If they ever really did hurt anybody, they'd be out of business overnight, provided that they were ever really in business to begin with. I mean, you never really know for sure who these masked figures are, do you? The ones you've given permission to come out of the dark, touch you, maybe drag you off someplace. Sure, it might just be an underpaid actor in a plastic costume, but can you really be sure? I'd heard rumors like that before, campfire stories about serial killers in costumes who'd snuck into Halloween attractions to hunt their victims. I never paid them much attention, but the look on Frank's face made me reconsider. I'm not just talking about a couple of psychopaths here. What I want you to think about is this. Why do haunted houses exist? I shrugged. I didn't know where this bizarre conversation was going, and at this point, I wasn't sure I wanted to find out, but Frank wasn't done. Don't think I can't see the appeal. Of course, getting scared is sort of fun if afterwards you walk back out into the sane, ordinary world you left behind. But what if you don't? What if it, what if it's a house that people want to go inside and not the other way around? I took a deep breath, so my foster father thought that the buildings can have personalities. There were worse kinds of crazy to be, I reminded myself, and looking wistfully down the country road where the fumes of Rhett's cars still lingered. This was my life now, and I'd have to make the best of it, I muttered. I muttered an apology and moved toward the door, telling myself that I should count on my blessings. But Frank's hand wrapped around my wrist like a claw. I'm willing to bet that nothing would have happened if you boys had gone to the haunted house in town tonight. People visit haunted houses all the time, right? Nothing happens to them. Well, most of them. If it did, would anyone notice the pattern? Think about it. If a cop or a university professor suggested researching haunted house disappearances, they'd be laughed out of the job. So people look away, and it keeps happening. Frank drank a swig of water like a man throwing back a shot, and for the first time I wondered whether the water he always carried around with him was really a substitute for a different sort of bottle. Halloween wasn't always a big, flashy holiday that it is today. When I was your age, we had a few bales and pumpkins in front of the town hall, some cardboard witches in the windows of the elementary school, and that was about it. If you wanted something fancy like a rubber mask or a costume party, you had to go to the big city, Frank sighed. I don't have to tell you, but when I saw your buddy pulled up in his car, I thought back to the Halloween night when my two best friends and I took that drive and went to our first haunted house. This is getting crazy. This is getting crazy. Is this an AI? I don't know. I don't even know what that means, girl. I don't even know, because I'm just a girl. And I'm a stupid girl. First time chat, yes, I'm an AI. No! No! Reading Reddit? No, that's not nice. I'm not an AI reading Reddit. I'm a real girl. Yes, I am a real girl. Anyways, I don't know what that was. Y'all can ignore that. Y'all can ignore that. Actually, bang, bang. Now you forget. I literally, I literally just erased your brain. I literally just erased your brain. Like, tell me what was happening in the last 5 minutes, because you wouldn't know. Because I erased your brain. You would not know. Anyways. I don't know what's happening right now, actually. I just reading my story. I'm just reading my story. Cassie and Tyler didn't have many friends. I didn't either. That might have been the only thing the three of us had in common. But it was enough. See, is it Cassie or Casey? I think it's Casey. Casey's dad never did nothing but drink and cause trouble. And most folks figured that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Tyler, on the other hand, Frank blushed. Well, the only thing people had against him was the color of his mama's skin was different from his daddy's. The two of them had been dating for years, which was about as serious as it gets in high school, when they adopted me into the little group. I don't know why, hell, maybe they were just bored. Either way, with Tyler and Kat and Casey, I finally started doing the sort of things I'd always imagined teenagers did: smoking in the park, walking down railroad tracks, swimming in the river in the summer, having plans for Halloween night. That's the worst part, the part that still stings. The haunted house was my idea. We had it all planned out. Tyler's mom was the editor of some magazine, and a grateful author had sent her some expensive liquor as a thank you gift. Tyler would steal the bottle and give it to Casey, who would leave it out for her dad after school. By 6 p.m., he'd be blackout drunk, and Casey would snatch the keys and pick us up on the way out of town. We'd go to the city, where we'd trick or treat like little kids, visit a haunted house, try to sneak into some college parties. With the full moon rising and the fall wind in our hair, it felt like anything could happen. We had it all planned out, Frank repeated and shook his head. After buying some silly discount masks and gorging ourselves on candy bars from the rich neighborhoods, we headed for the haunted house. We hadn't kept track of time, and Casey was afraid we wouldn't be able to get there before they closed. Not to mention the line. None of us were used to the city, and just finding a place to park among all those cars was a nightmare. It felt like the house with its creepy lighting effects and soundtracks and evil laughter, was teasing us. Casey left the car in front of a fire hydrant, and we took down the sidewalk, hoping we weren't too late. The ticket guy was a kid our age in a zombie face paint and an oversized pinstripe purple suit. He told us that the house had closed half an hour before midnight and we were 3 minutes too late. All he wanted to do was finish cleaning up and go home, but I guess the look on our faces had him change his mind. He sighed, took our money, and pulled the red velvet rope in front of the porch. And pulled back the red velvet rope in front of the porch stairs. The place had probably been some rich farmer's estate once. Now it was a gray, gaunt, and rickety. There was something hungry about the way it loomed over us as we walked inside. The double doors creaked open automatically, a nice touch, I thought, and we stepped into a hallway lit only by creepy blue bulbs. Tyler made a joke about what shows up in the blacklight. We all jumped a little and laughed when the door slammed shut behind us. It must have been a pretty fancy house in its day, but the hallway Tyler, Casey, and I walked down was bare except for plastic skeletons and fake cobwebs. It had a sad, barren look to it, like whoever had set up the haunted house didn't have the budget to decorate it the way it deserved. Halloween-themed songs played from the speaker somewhere, and candles flickered in a couple of jack-o'-lanterns. That was about it. The three of us were pretty disappointed. We'd expected movie-quality effects, not cheap junk that we could have bought at a dollar store back in town. We'd almost reached the staircase at the far end of the hallway when a laughing woman with rope around her neck fell from the ceiling. The rope brought her the rope the rope brought her to a halt just above our heads, and we all screamed. Up close, it was clear that we were just looking at a mannequin dressed up like a witch, but that wasn't the startling see. I would have sworn that what I saw was Casey, eyeless and bone thin, like she'd been falling. Oh, so it is a girl. Eyeless and bone thin, like she'd been falling so long she'd starved to death. Tyler gave the mannequin a shove and chuckled as it swung its rope. Casey shushed him. It didn't seem right. Disturbing the silence like that, the echoes were all distorted, like the hallway was somehow bigger than it looked. I put my foot in the first step of the staircase and everything went black. Suddenly I was falling. Not down the steps, but down different ones. Stairs so steep I could feel the wind around me as I stumbled through the dark. When I looked up, Casey had caught me. There were no twisted stairs here, just a dim lobby of cheap haunted house. I told the other two that I'd race them to the second floor. We were panting by the time we got to the top, even though it couldn't have taken that long. The theme up there was classic monsters, a mummy that popped out of the broom closet, rubber bats bouncing from the ceiling, a mechanical zombie they set up in the coffin as we passed. Nothing scary enough to make us look twice, nothing like what happened to me on those stairs. An arrow painted in fake blood directed us to the door to the left, and Tyler yanked the door open immediately. We were bored already, eager to be done with this and worried about the car. But what we saw behind the door stopped us in our tracks. It was just an ordinary living room. No decorations, no cheesy themes, just a gramophone, some armchairs, and a ticking wall clock in the shape of a cat with big eyes that swung from side to side. It was a near-perfect replica of how people lived almost a century ago, except that it looked brand new. There was even a cigar burning in the ashtray and half-finished glass of brandy, like whoever was living here would be back any minute. It felt obscene, like we were invading someone's privacy and trespassing someone we shouldn't. I was about to suggest that we turn back when the door slammed and locked behind us. I knew we had crossed the eerie room to leave it, but even so, it was hard to take the first step. The tiny pink flowers on the hideous wallpaper seemed to squirm like tiny fingers, and I had an awful feeling that we were being watched from the far corner of the room. It's getting kind of spooky. Suddenly, the gramophone started playing by itself, but the noise coming out of it wasn't music. It was us, Tyler and Casey and I, screaming, arguing, shouting in terror about bruises and grabbing hands. We'd never spoken those words in our lives. The three of us looked at each other, and we all had the same thought: get out of here as quickly as possible. The gramophone kept getting louder and louder. I thought my ears would bleed before we got to the door on the other side of the room, but once we were through it, the noise stopped completely, and the lights were out. We closed the door behind us and leaned against it, too scared to talk. Tyler started to say something about how maybe it was all part of the act, but the words died in his throat, especially after he looked around at where we were. It was a dim, dirty kitchen. If the room we left had been something out of the last century, this one was all 1970s darkened wood cupboards, pea green walls, puke yellow linoleum. The only thing the two had in common was the inescapable, lingering feeling that we weren't supposed to be there, like something was leading us into a trap, hunting us. Once, when I was a kid, the basketball I was playing with rolled under a neighbor's porch. I crawled after it without thinking, and I was feeling around the dank, cobwebby dark. Something growled behind me. I never found out what it was, a stray dog, a mountain lion, or maybe even just a rabid raccoon. But I never felt that kind of fear again, up until I stepped into that nasty little kitchen, like I'd gotten myself trapped in a cramped place with something hungry and horrible. There were no windows and only one door. We had no choice but to keep going deeper in the house, if that's what it was. This is getting crazy. This is getting kind of crazy, guys. Oh my god. Keep reading. There was something wrong with the air in here. It seemed to be moving, and it wasn't until we approached the dripping faucet that I realized what it was. The air was buzzing with thousands of tiny flies. Casey clamped a hand over her mouth and leaned over the sink to see where they were coming from. Then she groaned and bolted for the door. Tyler followed her, slipping in a puddle of something rust-colored and sticky that was coming from the fridge, and I followed. Our footsteps had woken the place up somehow. There was a bang from the inside of the cabinets, then another, so hard that they were shook, and I realized that I absolutely could not handle seeing whatever was about to come out of there. We shoved each other through the door just in time and felt the slam when something crashed into it behind us. More came, hard enough for the rattle the door on its hinges, but it held. We were in what looked like a children's nursery. Bright, wide, smiling zoo animals painted on the walls, small bed topped with plain white sheets, a nightlight in the shape of the grinning plastic moon. It was dead silent, like the room was waiting for us. Then, all at once, four almost human shapes sat up beneath the covers. We froze, too scared to move. Then something reached from beneath the bed and tried to pull me under. I yelped in pain, kicked it off, and ran. Once the door was pressed shut behind us, I rolled up the cuff of my jeans and found a burn mark in the shape of a tiny hand with too many fingers. It was still painfully cold to touch. This is getting spooky. The No Sleep podcast is so good. I love freaking Reddit, man. That's so bad to say, but I love the channel. It's a YouTube channel and they just read Reddit stories. It is so good. Oh my god, it's called like Chills or something. I don't know, but it's so good. But anyways, guys, I'm your new Reddit channel. Don't mind the fact that I can't read, but I'm the new Reddit channel. I'm the new Reddit girly in these parts. Things about to change around here. Anyways, but just don't ignore the fact that I can't actually read. Just ignore that fact and it'll all be fine. Okay. Casey started yelling, demanding to be let out, shouting that we'd never agreed to let anyone touch us, but she stopped mid-sentence. It was the same argument that we'd heard on the gramophone when we first walked into the nightmare. The realization shocked us to silence, and we finally began to take in our surroundings. We were in another hallway, but this one didn't have an end. The ugly yellow wallpaper and old-fashioned doors went on forever in both directions. Just looking at it made me want to grab onto the floor, like at any minute the hallway would tilt, and I'd slide down the carpet into the abyss. I was still trying to get my head around it when the doorknob of the room we'd left began to turn. There was rustling on the other side, fingers filling the gaps in the hinges. Ew. Tyler started to pull the doorknob after another, but they were all locked. At the pace he was moving, we struggled to keep up with him. He started knocking instead, swearing that he could hear movement and voices on the other side of the doors. He yelled and pleaded, begging to be let in. Then, when Casey and I were too far to help him, he got his wish. The door in front of Tyler swung open, and I saw the terror on his face for just a split second before he was sucked inside. The door shut and locked itself behind. But Casey and I weren't going to let that stop us. I kicked the door until my foot went through, and then it hollowed and then I hollowed in pain. There was nothing but the wall on the other side. It was like the house had swallowed Tyler up. Even worse, we had no idea where we were. The doors were all identical, and none of us had thought to mark the point where we'd started from. Casey just shut down, holding her head in her hands and muttering about how this couldn't be happening. I remember thinking at this rate, it wouldn't be long before both of us went crazy, and maybe that was the point. Then I heard hinges creaking. Have you heard the podcast though? I have not heard the podcast actually. I should really look into more podcasts though. I love paranormal stuff. I freaking love that shit, dude. So the Nosleep podcast. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna listen to that. I don't know how to get my chat on the same screen. I'm stupid. I don't know how to do this. There we go. I did it. Holy shit. I did it. I did it. Be proud of me because this is not an easy mission. Mission? I don't know. Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna listen to that because that sounds good. I love that stuff. Actually, let me find the YouTube channel that I really like listening to. It's really, really good. It is. Can I find it? It's Let's Read on YouTube. The podcast got the idea from Reddit. Yeah. Yeah. The YouTube channel I like is Let's Read. They like post all sorts of Reddit videos and just Reddit scary stories and stuff. But their voice is so smooth. Like it is so good. You have to listen to it. It's just so like I love falling asleep to it every night. Yeah, it makes me paranoid as fuck, but that's okay. No one cares about that. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading. Where am I? Same with the podcast. Yeah, it makes me really paranoid, but I don't know. It's addicting. I like it, so that's okay. Yay, thank you. Yeah, it's really good. You should definitely listen to it. The voice is just so smooth. Like I can't listen to any others because his voice is just so nice to listen to. Not like mine because I cannot read. But anyways, where am I? By the time I spun around, the door was wide open. There was nothing but darkness on the other side. At least that's what I thought at first. Once I got closer, though, I saw the stairs, narrow, uneven, with a plunge into the blackness on either side, and no guardrail. I think they meant to say never. I never mentioned that I'm scared of heights. Oh no, he did meant to say ever. I am so smart. Yes. Okay. I couldn't do it. I told Casey that I'd starve to death in the endless hallway before I'd make myself climb down there, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. Through a mix of pleading, insults, and holding my hand, she finally got me moving, even though I had to crawl backwards to do it. Those steep, jagged stairs were made of something slick and cold as ice. A black wind blew around us and crawled downwards. It felt like being on the edge of a mountain peak, even though I knew that was impossible. We were still indoors, weren't we? Or maybe, on the other hand, we hadn't been in that sheep haunted house for a long time. Just maybe we'd been swallowed by someplace else. Before long, the stairs were so tall and narrow that it was almost like being on a ladder above an empty space. I was so tense that I started shaking, and guess it's no surprise that I slipped. I slid downward, unable to grip the narrow steps, and knowing that at any second I might fall into nothingness on the either side. But Casey caught me. It happened exactly as I had envisioned it earlier that night, just like the yelling we'd heard on the gramophone. So what about the mannequin? The one that had looked like Casey, long, dead, and falling through the empty space, clinging to the almost vertical steps. I shouted my friend's name, even though I knew it was already too late. By grabbing me, she'd unbalanced herself and gone over the edge. She probably didn't even have time to scream. Casey had been so sure that the stairs were our way out, but what if it had been a trap all along? After all, we hadn't opened the door into darkness, the house had. I climbed back to the stairs. I climbed back up the stairs were quickly. I climbed back up the stairs as quickly as I dared and found the hallway exactly as I had left it. Well, not exactly. There was an end to it on the other side, and there were sounds, cars driving by outside, and the hum of heating system, and the teenager who'd taken our tickets yelling about how I wasn't supposed to be back there. And anyway, the haunted house was closed. Of course, I filled the police report, and a lot of good that did. When I told them what happened, they decided my friends and I were junkies on a bad trip. Later, they kicked around the idea that we were some kind of satanic cult and that I'd killed them myself. In the end, I guess they just decided that the whole thing was too complicated and strange to bother with. Tyler's family moved away without another word to anyone, and Casey's dad drank himself to death before Christmas. The neighbor said that night that he would scream out her name. He didn't know she was gone. I stayed where I was and did my best to forget about the whole thing. As you can see, it hasn't worked out. The sun had set on Frank when he told me his story, and in the twilight gloom he looked almost like a ghost himself. I don't know what to say, I mumbled. Something about how it was getting cold on the porch, and headed for the screen door. I'm not asking you to believe everything you hear, Frank smiled. Just promise me that as long as you live under my foot, under my roof, under my foot, the heck, you'll stay away from haunted houses. What the flip? Under my foot? What the flip? I nodded, and Frank pulled himself up from his rocking chair to follow me inside for supper. That's when I noticed the scar on his ankle, the scar in the shape of a small, six-fingered hand. Okay, so it was real, I guess? Yeah, that was good. That was good, guys. I like that. I don't know if I want to read more though, because I can't read. Maybe. And I am lazy, and I did not make an outro because this was cut up. But yeah, thank you for listening if you did listen, and goodbye to my chat. Goodbye to my loyal servants and knights. Goodbye.